Hello, everybody. It's good to see you today. We're back for another Meet the Members. I'm so glad that you're here. If everything is going well, we're doing this on Monday, and there's probably been some snowstorms going on, but we brought Gary in, and we're recording this the weekend before the snowstorm.
Right.
Yeah, because we don't want to be up here if it's snowstorming either, and so we're here, but we're going to pretend like, whew, that was a tough one. Did you buy all the milk?
The bread,
And get the
eggs, everything ready.
That's right. That's right. I've got to get gas for my generator right now. I don't have gas in my generator, so
I don't have a generator.
I actually saw Pat up here today. She was outside up today, and she was talking about they just bought a generator, and so I was glad to hear that she was going to have a generator, keep that going. So.
My son-in-law works for Duke Power, so maybe I can call him.
Get those favors up there. We had a huge ice storm that came through in Oklahoma that was like 7-8 days without power, sort of thing. And our house was on the last leg of the power grid where we were.
Great.
And we would call them and they would tell us, it's like, look, we don't know what's wrong with your house until we fix every problem in front of you. And so it was just, they keep working one at a time. And 8 days later, it finally came back on. So for those of you that are out there, if you lost power, sorry about that. But I hope you had an opportunity to be with us at church or watch us online. So, I mean, you've been a superintendent, so you know this snow stuff, right?
I've had to deal with this for several years as a principal and an assistant superintendent. So
yeah, because as a pastor, I mean, I only have to do it like once a week, but it's nerve-wracking sometimes. It's like, well, if I cancel it and then there's no snow, Jesus is going to be mad at me. But if I don't cancel it, then he's going to ask you, why'd you get everybody out in the snow?
Then we have to worry about when we're going to make those days up.
Oh, yeah, definitely in school. Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, when are we going to put it in? And fun sort of stuff.
Great.
I'm learning. People are telling me, okay, now if the snow comes over the mountains, it's going to be mostly ice. But if it dips down through the Gulf, then we're going to get hammered.
If it comes from the south, we usually get a bad storm.
All right. So that's what I'm trying to learn. So I don't know. Are those mountains supposed to protect us from the weather? Okay, good. I just want to check on that. I want to make sure we're good and protected.
Kind of breaks up when it hits the mountains. So
that's nice. Because I tell we did Oklahoma and even the part of Texas we were in forever. There are no mountains. There are no trees. There's nothing that breaks anything up. And so, we didn't get snow because if snow fell, then the winds that come whipping down the plains, they take that snow to Arkansas. It's gone before we see it, but it leaves a nice layer of ice. So I'm used to ice.
I don't like the ice. I'd rather have snow.
I do not like snow. Up north, Kim was driving on snow. She's like, I can drive on snow. I was like, yeah, 'cause we've been driving on ice, and it's just slick as it can be.
There's no control on ice.
Yeah, nothing going on ice. But hey, I'm glad that you're joining us. We just wanted to take a little bit of time just to put some people on face. You're a busy man around here, right? I mean, we've got a committee meeting we're working on. You're now chairman of the deacons,
right?
Which gave you a demotion, so you're no longer moderator anymore.
Right.
So I don't know which gives more stress. But you're also one of our Sunday school teachers. You got a lot of hats you're wearing around here.
Exactly.
Well, we appreciate that. So which one's the worst job? No, we're not going to ask that
That's
question. Right. But one of the things we're just trying to do is we're just trying to get people's faces out there, and maybe a better question is when you think about your memories here at Louisville, we're trying to document some of those things. What are some of those great memories? What brought you to Louisville, or what are some of those memories that keep you coming back here and putting all the energy in that you do?
Actually, my first experience at Louisville was with Dr. Coltrane. I think it was 85, and I met with him in his office, and we had a great conversation, and I had only been here one time before that happened, and we arranged to have my family come with me the next Sunday, and it was a great opportunity to come in. And the church at that time, we had probably 230 or 240 attendance in Sunday school, so it was a large crowd, and really got to know a lot of people.
That's good. I like hearing that story. My dad, so we were military people, so we moved around quite a bit. And when he finally retired, we moved to Abilene, Texas, and we did church hunting there, and that's the first time, because we've lived in some remote places and you didn't church hunt. I mean, it was there was only one church in miles and miles, and so you went to that one church. But we did some church hunting in Abilene, and my dad would do that. He would go and make appointments with the pastors and sit down with them. And there was a church, Southside Baptist Church in Abilene. He sat down with the pastor, had a meeting with the pastor, and we hadn't gone to the church. And he said, "Oh, by the way, this Friday we're having a lock-in with the youth." He's like, "Well, I got 3 teenage boys." He comes Friday. He's like, "You boys are going to a lock-in." We don't know any of these people at this place at all. We don't know any of these kids. We don't know anybody in this church. And we haven't gone there on a Sunday. Dad pulls up on a Friday night, kicks us out of the car, and we're locked in the building with them. So
you get to know people real quickly.
You get to know, and honestly, some of those people are my best friends right now. Tate's up in Lynchburg, and we go up there, and we've got friends that work up at Liberty. One of those is one of the kids from that church, and I actually married he and his wife, and it was part of their wedding, and so they are lifelong friends, and so those things, you never know how that's going to work out.
Right.
That conversation with Dr. Coltrane, you never know where that's going to end up. And
I will tell you that the first few times that I came to church here, Mary Alice Warren's mom sat right in front of us, and always had a story to tell, something to share. Just making you feel welcome when you came.
I can imagine that, because Mary Alice always has a story to tell. So right. I can imagine that. That's great. That's great. It's always nice to hear those stories, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people nowadays that have showed up at the church might not know Mary Alice as well as some of the rest of y'all. But there's been a lot of changes since the mid '80s that have gone on here at Louisville. I mean, this building is new since you've been here, right?
It is. Yeah. We actually, I was Sunday school superintendent or Sunday school director when we put the new building. We did the new building, and some of the things that I really enjoyed about the old building, we had a bell system to dismiss Sunday school, and one of my jobs every Sunday morning was to go down to the children's department, preschool department, and pick up one child and let them ring that bell to dismiss Sunday school every week. And they loved it.
Oh, I can imagine. I remember those bells. It was just a little doorbell
that was
stuck somewhere, but it rang. Those metal bells all over the place. I do miss those. I remember those days. Yeah, because you used to have like the plaques on the wall where you had the little slide-in numbers.
Right.
You'd put how many people showed up, and then you'd hear that little bell ring. It was all part of that nostalgic Sunday school stuff going on. I remember those days. Those are good thoughts.
And we also had one room that the older men were in down in the basement, or just off the basement, that flooded every time we had a little bit of a rain. So we had to have a sump pump in there to keep it dry.
That's good. And they probably loved that. You probably said, "Hey, we got other rooms," and they're like, "No, this is our room." Yeah, I love those things too. That's a great story. Man, it's good to hear those stories. I mean, we don't have flooding rooms anymore. So that's a great thing to be in this space. And if you haven't been here in a little bit, I know some of our people, they've just recently redone the downstairs. So things are looking nice down there.
They're beautiful.
Trying to really shape stuff up. So it's been good to see that going on.
We actually had 27 Sunday school classes when I took over as Sunday school director.
Really?
I was Sunday school director for 21 years.
Wow.
And we saw a lot of growth. Our high attendance goal every year was 200 members in Sunday school.
That's great. That's great.
Sometimes we didn't meet that, but sometimes with the help of visitors, we did meet that.
That's good. That's good. I love that. Yeah, I see all the the children's classes downstairs, and they're also well equipped and well adorned. And I can imagine those days when there were 8 or 9 young children's classes down there with kids running in it. And I look forward to those days being repeated. I'm looking forward to us getting those days back again.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed about being Sunday school director, every year, the week before the high school seniors graduated, we would have a senior Sunday and honor the seniors, but we would take them out to breakfast. We would have somewhere to go or have a catered meal here at the church for breakfast for them, and just have them a chance to get together
That's good.
on that Sunday.
That's
So.
good. I like that. I like that. I received a copy of In His Steps. I don't even know if kids nowadays have read that book. I know there was a while people would wear those WWJD,
That's
what would
right.
Jesus do bracelets, and I think most of them didn't have a single clue that actually came from that book series. But that was one of my graduation gifts. That was the first time I read that book, was when I was a senior in high school. Yeah, I like those senior days. It's nice. I got a senior this year, so you're making me,
Ideas about what we can do.
But it also, because she's my last one, when she goes, then that's it. The house will be empty. So we'll spoil the dogs more than they're already spoiled, and those dogs don't need to be spoiled anymore. But that's good. That's good. I'm excited about the schools. It's testing day right now. Like, I think state testing starts tomorrow. So, praying for all those kids out there doing those state testings, and the administrators that are like, oh, what's going to happen?
And just want the kids to relax.
Yeah.
Don't be nervous about it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I used to, they told me I was allowed to eat oranges because smelling the citrus would stimulate their memory nerves. And so they would give me a bowl of oranges when I would do state tests. I don't know if that worked or not, but
That and cinnamon. We do cinnamon.
cinnamon. And Kim will sometimes do peppermints, that she would give all of her kids a peppermint or something
Yep.
to suck on. So those are good things. I always feel sorry for those kids that get so nervous. Tests were my thing. Like, you give me homework, and the day-to-day grind when I was in school, I didn't like the day-to-day stuff. I'm like, just give me a test. If I can pass it, then let's move on. And so I enjoyed test days. And so those were the days that I shined. So.
And I'm just the opposite. I love to do the homework. I'd rather do it any time than take a test. So.
Yeah. And I like that. I mean, I know as an educator how important it is to look how all those kids are different. And honestly, in the church, I think that's something that I learned more when I started. I mean, Kim has always tried to help me, but in some of those churches, when we were planting churches, I taught as kind of my as my bivocational work. And the first school that I was at, we had like a 50% turnover with the staff. And so I went from being a brand new 1-year teacher to being the person with some of the highest seniority. And they sent me off to some of those teaching conferences. You're like, hey, we're going to send you for a 3-day conference in Las Vegas or something. I'm like, I've only been here 1 year. They're like, well, you're what we got.
You're the old man.
so did some of those, but learned a lot about how people learn, and really learned a lot about how I learned. Like I was quirky and different. I had skipped a grade in school, so I was younger than all the other kids around me. It was like early elementary, but I was ahead of them, and they just moved me on. And I think, as I got older, maybe that wasn't the best move, because socially I was behind. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of in this weird situation where I was that know-it-all kid, but I was younger and immature, more immature than the other kids, and it was tough. But I didn't always feel like I was learning in a way that suited me. And the more I learned that people do have different tendencies. My oldest son can't learn sitting down. He stands up. Like, he often ate meals standing up because he just could not stay seated long enough. And he always is shaking his leg. And when he went to college, his engineering professor said, math-minded and engineering kids tend to have that extra energy. And they always tend to be tapping a table or tapping their leg, and giving him permission to stand up to do work changed the way that he studied.
Even today, a recent fad has been fidget spinners.
Oh yeah,
just
those little pop things
right,
that I've seen. Yeah.
They do the poppers now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it just helps people to get their mind focused. And as a pastor, that really helped me figure out some of the things I need to do as a pastor. When I do the teachings I do, I talk about how occasionally I'll do a narrative type sermon. Well, I started doing those narrative sermons because I started realizing that a lot of our kids, especially our kids that struggled to read the most, tended to learn by what they heard, not by what they saw. Whereas most of us that went to college and stuff, we know how to read a book, identify an outline, figure out a structure, and put that into information. But if you didn't go to college, if you didn't really, if you're not really comfortable, you could read a menu at McDonald's, but you're not going to read the newspaper to get your news. people like that have a hard time even reading scriptures at times. That they're not comfortable doing it. And so sometimes just telling them a Bible story, reading them a Bible story, front to end, and doing it in such a way where they can immerse in it and feel it, it helps them learn. And so it's different.
And even having our quarterlies laid out the way they are, they'll usually have the scripture and a focus point, but they'll also have a story to relate it to.
Yeah.
And that's because of the people that have different learning styles.
Yeah. So I love that. And I think that the church is wise when we use those things. I always try to tell people that, that these things that we're learning in other places, in our education systems and science and all these things, this is the way God made the world. He wants us to explore the world he gave us. God is, I always tell people, God is a God of order, not a God of chaos. And so when we are able to figure out better ways to teach people or better ways to do things, the church traditionally for hundreds of years were the leaders in pushing that idea of discovering and learning and experimenting and even art and all these things, science. It hasn't been but maybe the last 100 years when the church has all of a sudden said, oh, your science is against my God, and there's been conflict. But for decades, even a millennia, the church was the leader of that sort of stuff.
And, we have even scientists in the not too distant past that have said exactly that. Yeah. That they're not against religion. They're not against, or they don't disbelieve in God. They believe in a creator, and that's how they explain their field.
Yeah. And so I love that, and it's just it's a different way of looking at stuff. And so I love my teachers, I love my educators, because sometimes in some places, in some Christian fields, they get a bad rap because people are like, well, you're trusting in your mind, you're not trusting in you're not trusting in God, just trust in God. But like we've been studying on Wednesday nights, Jesus said, love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so people that love God with their mind, they're not disrespecting God. They're doing exactly what God called us to do.
And I'll tell you, I have a degree in sports medicine as well, and just spending time in the gross anatomy lab, looking at how different the human body is and how it all works together, and it's just amazing. And if you do that, you have to believe in a creator.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you begin to see stuff, you hear the same thing from astronomers that say when you look out in the vastness of the universe, you have to believe in a creator. I had a friend that's a geologist, and look, when you look at the structure of the planet, you have to believe that there's a creator, and there's compelling reasons. And when you hear somebody, nowadays there's these pop atheists. Everybody that's online is a kook, okay, including Gary and I, because we're on here right now.
Right.
But you can find anybody online that's going to say anything, and these pop atheists that are online that will tell you these fanciful stories about how, this science disproves the Bible. 9 times out of 10, they're saying stuff that doesn't even connect. They're non sequiturs. They don't have anything to do with our faith and don't really have anything to do with science out there. And so, as God's people, I love seeing God's people that use their mind in new and creative ways, and are able to do that to bring glory to God in the things they're doing. And so I really appreciate that sort of stuff. And so I appreciate teachers like you, educators that spend their lives helping people do that.
Yeah, and the kids really enjoy having that opportunity. Oh, yeah. Not only here at church, they love having that opportunity in school. Yeah. To have an adult that understands that they have the same belief system that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know my French teacher, in fact, little known fact about me, I have one of the most useless minors in all the world. I am a French minor. So I studied French. I actually did courses in Paris, France, in order to perfect my French skills, which I now have 0 of. I do not have any more French skills whatsoever. But what gave me that spark of love of French, my first French teacher that I had was a godly Christian woman, and in that process of being that awkward, little young kid that had transferred in from another school, because I didn't get there till my sophomore year, and having her, really helped me through some of those tough years of school. Her name was Mrs. Pilcher, Madame Pilcher. And I remember to this day. And she was actually a person on hard days and tough days that I could go to her and say, would you pray for me? And she would pray for me. And so I remember that, and that impacted me, and it gave me a love to keep pursuing French. So.
And I'll tell you, even the students that were not churchgoers, when they had a serious issue, they would look for people that were believers to come talk to. They want to hear their perspective on what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's just a big deal. And so I know there's this false perception that, you can't be Christian in school and stuff like that. And I believe, like, as a Baptist, as a Southern Baptist, you hear people talk about separation of church and state. That is a Baptist concept. We believe that there should be a separation of church and state. We believe that we don't want teachers teaching theology and religion and things like that. We want your pastors doing that. We want your families doing that. I think today we live in a world where other philosophies get in, and because they're not a religion, it may be a New Age philosophy or an Eastern philosophy, it sneaks by the church and state thing. But I don't necessarily want my teachers praying before a football game, because what if I have a teacher that I disagree with? Mm-hmm. What if there's a Muslim teacher there, or a Hindu teacher? Or a big thing that happened in Oklahoma City is the local Satanists started getting really involved, saying, hey, if the Christians get to do it, we get to do a sacrifice, to Satan. But the thing I always told people is that didn't get God out of the school. As kids, for instance, it compelled us all the more, because children are not under that obligation. I'm not being paid by the state to be there. And so we were called to be in charge of the spiritual well-being of the students there. Kim could be in charge of the spiritual well-being of the other teachers, but we as kids, we had a responsibility for our schools. And I think that, once again, was one of the first opportunities I had to be a witness and a missionary or whatever, is to be in my schools, being a person of faith. We started Bible studies at lunchtime and did those sort of things. And I think that's a powerful thing for us to realize. Kids have that ability. And when we empower them, when we give them permission, go do your faith in the school, God can do a lot of stuff with that.
We have a substitute teacher that is an associate pastor at a church, and he has a youth meeting at his home every night, or on certain nights during the week, and the church actually had to expand his house so they could fit the students in there. Yeah. The students are craving those kind of things and want to know that somebody cares about them. Pastor Coltrane, when he was here, I coached girls basketball, and Pastor Coltrane was the chaplain for our team. He went to every game with us, and those girls became very close to him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great thing, to have that opportunity. I used to do Fellowship of Christian Athletes quite a bit. Was one of the, in school, to have a club, you had to have a sponsor. So I was one of the sponsors of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we're able to have a lot of just great people that came in. And we had a local church that bought donuts for our Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we were in a school that 98% of the kids were free and reduced lunch. So we were in a, poor neighborhood, and in the state we were in, when you hit a certain percentage, then they just considered the whole
everybody.
School. Yeah. So even though we had a few kids, that it's just, so everybody was on free lunch because of the way we were, and it was just a rough place. And we had a church that bought donuts, and for 2 or 3 years before I came, they had done this. And so, you go and buy a couple dozen Krispy Kremes and you bring it there. Well, then the next week you find out, oh man, okay, we're going to have to cut the donuts in half. There's not enough. We tell the church, and so they start bringing 6 dozen donuts, and then they start bringing 12 dozen donuts. They would bring 20 dozen donuts, and the school opened up the gym and said you could be in the gym, and we would have nearly every kid in the school that was there, partly because they got free donuts. But we did it before school, and anybody that wanted to come was allowed to come. They could get a couple donuts, and we would have somebody come in there and speak, but it just takes 1 or 2 of those kids that are willing to, be the president, lead one of those groups, and a couple of sponsors in the church, in the teaching staff, that's saying, hey, I'm willing to support you guys doing what you're doing, and it changes people's lives.
when I started at Forbush High School as a teacher, one of my responsibilities was working as a director of a peer counseling group, and students would seek out other students
Yeah.
to talk to help them with their situations.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I love hearing that sort of stuff. And that's, this year, and we're way past our 15 minutes, but but this year when we talk about the vision for the church, that's part. When we talk about the vision of the church, we're using this theme of being the light to the world, and that's a part of it. That kid is being a light to somebody that needs somebody to help them because they're in a dark place. What they need is that ray of sunshine to come in, and it's not just for kids. I mean, it's for all of us. And right now, I think more than ever, just as a country, I mean, you can't help but look outside and realize that we're probably more divided than ever. We're more fearful than ever. We're being safe here at the church, as safe as we can be. And one of our church members said, I was out the other day wearing my mask and somebody was confrontational because I was wearing, it's just, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're trying to be safe, somebody's going to get mad at you. It's like, why are you doing that? And if you're not being safe, somebody from the, you do enough of that. And at some point in time, it just wears on you. And that's when you need your brothers and sisters in Christ sometimes just to come and say, hey, look, I don't care where we are. Man, I just need somebody to love on me right now. And that's one of the things I love about being in a church, being in a Sunday school class. You have that opportunity to be surrounded by people that are going to love you for you, going to love you and care for you. And for maybe just a brief moment, you can forget some of those worries of the world.
One of the best parts of Sunday school is people that care.
Yeah. And that's a biblical call. Carry each other's burdens. And you come in, and one day I might be able to carry somebody's, and the next day somebody's going to carry mine. So I'm excited about that. Well, Gary, I appreciate you coming and spending a little bit of time.
My pleasure.
Giving us a little bit of your evening, and we're going to continue to do this, and want to encourage anybody else that wants to come. You'll see that Gary survived, and he's going to make it. We can all make it. So if you want to come and participate, I'd love for other people to come and do this. So, Gary, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys soon. And like I said, keep watching. These should be at 2 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And we're going to do our best to fill them up. And I look forward to seeing you do all the rest of our stuff. Be safe out there if it's still snowing out there. All right. If you need something, that any one of us in the church.
Absolutely.
We got a good group of people. I mean, I know your deacons will check on you, but we'll be out there and we'll do what we can. So, all right. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gary. Let me see if I can find the way to turn this thing off. All right. Oh, camera hit the fade to black.